Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Stephanie Bree, and today I'm going down memory lane, and we're talking about the Friends reboot that was produced by CBS, I believe, or aired on CBS. This some people call How I Met Your Mother, but I just call it Friends 2.0 because it's fucking Friends 2.0. It's the same six characters. They have different names and slightly different jobs, but it's the same six characters living the same lives in the same city in the same apartment building doing the same shit. They're just doing it at a bar instead of a coffee shop, but it's the same goddamn show. And they actually like steal storylines straight out of Friends. So if you enjoyed Friends, you probably watched How I Met Your Mother and were happy as a shitting pig to get 9 more seasons of Friends, even though it wasn't the Friends we grew up with. It was still the same goddamn show. And it only came out 2 years after Friends ended. So it was like, we had Friends, we had the 2 seasons of Joey that made us bang our head in the wall and go, why, God, why? And then they gave us this, and we are like, okay, thank you, universe. So let's talk about the show. I'm not going to get into the behind the scenes stuff because I don't give a shit. And I didn't look into it all that much. I do have the entire series, all 9 seasons, on DVD. So I have watched every episode that has a commentary with the commentary. So I do know the behind the scenes stuff, but we're not going to be here for 3 hours. That's not what I do on this channel. Instead, we're just going to talk about the overarching premise of the show, the individual characters, and some highlights from the show, and my personal memories and experiences with the show. So before I dig into the show itself, spoilers if you haven't seen it. The premise is a man who's, I want to say, in his late 50s, sitting down recanting the story to his teenage children, how he met their mother. That's the premise. And then we get the rest of the show told through flashbacks. Now, rest in peace. The man doing the voice is, oh my God, I forgot his name. He was the dad on Full House, and I forgot his name. So, shit. I apologize for that. It'll come back to me before the episode's done. Um, I could look it up, but anyways, you know who he is. Um, he was the voice, and then um, most of the actors went on to be famous. A couple of them were famous before they did the show, and then some of them you recognize their face, but you might not know their names. So I'll go through the individual characters. You have Ted Mosby, uh, played by, I think his name is John Ratcliffe or John Rat. I can't remember. Rad Radler, something like that. I can't remember his name. Jason Radler. Anyways, he's a dude. He did this, and as far as I know, nothing else. Um, you have his best friend, Marshall. No, I don't remember his last name. Marshall something. Anyways, his best friend Marshall, who is a country bumpkin from, I think, Minnesota, who is studying to be a lawyer. Ted Mosby is an architect. You have the asshole sex fiend that they hang around with. His name is Barney, um, and he is played by, God damn it, I can't remember people's names right now. You know who he is. He was, anyways, fuck it. I don't give a shit. I can't remember their names right now. God damn it, why can't I remember their names? Doogie Howser. He was played by the guy who played Doogie Howser, and it'll come back to me. And then you have the girl of his dreams, Robin Sparkles, or Robin something or other, but I call her Robin Sparkles because that's one of her names in the show. Who is a journalist? I'm using that word loosely. Um, who's from Canada, who comes to New York to be a journalist, and she's the love interest, but she's also his friend? Question mark? Or becomes his friend because she's new to town and doesn't have any friends, even though she's, when he meets her, she's at a bar with a group of her friends. So where did they go? I don't know, but there's a lot of plot holes in this TV show. We just try to brush them aside. You have Marshall's fiance, later wife, um, played by Allison Hannigan, and her name in the show is Lily. Lily's something. I can't remember their last. It's been a few years since I've seen this show, by the way. This is a retrospective. This isn't a documentary. So I apologize. God damn it! Why can't I remember people's names? Anyways, I'm bad at names. If you've watched my show at all, you know I'm bad at names. It'll come back to me sooner or later, but at this point in time, I don't fucking care. Anyways, um, Lily is a kindergarten teacher, and they never really tell us what Barney does. He's just basically a Wall Street dude, and that's all we know. Man in suit, and he's obsessed with his suits. He's always saying suit up, and he's always suiting up, and everyone else is like, no, dude, I'm comfortable in jeans and t-shirt. Um, so let's get into the characters. Ted is a lovesick puppy who is just desperate to get married because Lily and Marshall are engaged in the first episode, and he's like, "Aw, I want to get married," and they're all like, "Dude, you're 27. Why do you want to get married?" And he's like, "You're 27 and you're getting married." I'm like, "Yeah, but we've been together forever, and you're single, dude." And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't know. I guess universe, I'm ready." And then he spends the whole series trying to make romance happen in a lot of sitcom fashion where it's like, no, dude, that's not how true love works, but okay, we'll go with it because it's funny. Um, he's not a pure scumbag like Ross. He's the Ross character of the show, by the way, but he's not a pure scumbag like Ross. But he's similar to Ross in that you're rooting for him for the first, I want to say 2 or 3 seasons, and then you're like, all right, dude, get the fuck over yourself, because he becomes kind of an asshole in the later seasons with, I don't know, I would say a redemptive story arc, but not really. He's still kind of an asshole, but he doesn't start out as an asshole like Ross. He just becomes an asshole. But he's still more likable than Ross, so, kudos for that. Uh, Barney is basically the Joey character, sort of. He's the sex fiend. He only cares about women as objects, and he's very clear about this. Um, he is a scumbag, but he's lovable? Question mark. He's a goofball, and he has a playbook which he uses to trick women into bed. Um, he has a sort of redemptive story arc, not really, because it's undercut, but he almost gets a redemptive story arc, but like I said, then it's undercut. Um, but you're kind of rooting for him, but you're also like, dude, you suck. And there's one episode in particular where at the very beginning of the episode, you're praying for a meteor to fall on Barney, and you're like, fuck this dude. And then you get to the end of the episode, and you're like, okay, maybe I don't want a meteor to fall on him, but I still want him to get hit by a bus. You know what I mean? He's still a piece of shit. Marshall is your fun-loving. He's the Chandler of the show. He's your fun-loving goofball. He's already found his Monica, so good for him. But he's also kind of, a doofus, and he does a lot of stupid shit because he's not very intelligent, even though he's studying to be a lawyer. He's got like the brain smarts, but he doesn't have the street smarts. We'll say, it's a Hollywood trope. Um, and then you have Lily, who's the I guess the Phoebe of the show. She's kind of the ditzy, spacey, kind of loose, liberal, hippie, new age character, kind of, sort of, but not fully, but very reminiscent of Phoebe, with a still tragic backstory, but not as tragic as Phoebe's, but she's the Phoebe stand-in. And then you have Robin Sparkles, who is the, I guess, the Rachel of the group, but she's also kind of the Monica of the group. So she plays both. She's the Rachel in that she's the love interest that he's obsessed with, and it's the whole chase, will they, won't they, is the whole show. They hook up and then they break up and then they hook up and then they break up. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of bullshit. But it's like right there from the very first episode. So, it's just like friends. But she's also kind of like the Monica in that she's the one with the sort of successful career who's got the personality quirks, and she's got more of a a head on her shoulders than Rachel does. You know what I mean? So she's like a mishmash of Monica and Rachel. Um, I guess you could say she's got the best traits of both characters, but she also has the worst traits of both characters because she is somewhat superficial and kind of cold and very selfish. And she does not really get a redemptive arc. She's kind of a, we'll say, frigid bitch most of the show. And she stays a frigid bitch throughout the show. Even though Ted is still enamored by her, she does him wrong a lot. And he should just be like, bitch, I'm moving on. But no, he's, so stuck on her, he won't move on. A lot of the comedy comes from Ted trying too hard to get laid or get a girl on a date, and sitcom antics ensue. Um, Barney trying too hard to get laid, but he's just looking to get laid and move on. Um, Marshall and Lily, um, there's conflict in that Marshall wants to go be an environmental lawyer, but he also wants to go be a corporate lawyer so he can make money. And Lily wants to be a liberal socialist kindergarten teacher trying to fight to save the planet like her husband, but also she's got credit card debt and she's like, hey, we need the paycheck, but also we need to save the world, but also we need the paycheck. Um, I would say Lily and Marshall are the two most likable characters of the show. Probably the most, it's a sitcom, so none of them are realistic, but they're the most believable as humans. The rest of them are obviously sitcom tropes. That's all they are. They're not characters at all. They're just sitcom tropes. Um, and you get a lot of weird, like Friends. You get a lot of just like antics. That's the best way to describe it. Just random shit happens from one episode to the next. Not a lot of overarching story arcs. You get some character development, and I'm saying loosely some, but not much. But you get a lot of like, you know, set pieces, and you get a lot of little like, conflict that is only relevant for the 30 minutes of this episode and never brought up again, even though it has far-reaching consequences for our friendship of the main characters. They just sort of shrug it off and hey, it's a sitcom. So, the sun went down, the credits rolled, it's a new day. We forgot about yesterday's episode or last week because, that was last week. Today's a new day. So there's not a lot of consequence from one episode to the next. Even though there are some callbacks, a lot of the times the callbacks are retconned. And they do it with, you know, Ocean's 11 style retcons where it's like, oh, you thought it was this, but it was actually this. You can chalk up 90% of the sitcom's flubs, and there are a lot of them, to it's an old man telling his kids a story. His memory's fuzzy. He drank a lot. This is obvious. He spends all his time in the bar. So they make it an actual plot point where he will start to tell a story and he'll go mid-story, wait a minute, that's not how it happened. Huh. And then he'll either forget and be like, well, sorry, I guess, never mind. Or later on, he'll go back and be like, oh, yeah, that's how it happened. I'm sorry. So they do a good job with fixing their plot holes and flubs with that plot device. So kudos to them for that. The show's hella funny, even if it's unbelievable. It's sitcom land where everybody's rich, even though they're poor. They all live in an apartment that they could never afford for the incomes that they're supposed to have. But also, they pretend to have money problems, but the money problems literally never have any consequence. It's always like, well, how are we going to pay our bills? And then, oh, Uncle Frank died. I guess we're rich now. Or some sitcom shit like that. Or we won the lottery. Not specifically, there's no Uncle Frank, they never win the lottery, but it's that kind of sitcom bullshit. There's always sitcom bullshit that saves the day. Like I said, there's no consequence from one episode to the next. There's a couple of times spread throughout the series where something will happen in one episode that will carry over to the next episode. They'll fix it or resolve it mid episode, drop it, and then they're all back to normal. And then they carry on like it never happened. That happens a few times. But again, that happens in all sitcoms. It even happened in Friends. There are surprisingly not very many of the flashback episodes because the whole show is a flashback. Um, so that's good. That is good. And yes, there are bottle episodes, but they hide it so well because they don't have very many sets to begin with. You got the apartment, you got Robin's apartment, sometimes you have Barney's apartment, you got the bar, and then you just got random places throughout the city, which is usually just the sidewalk or the subway or, you know, standing outside a building. So you have a lot of that, which it's like it's fine, you got to make a movie. You don't have the money to make a good movie, so you do what you can, you know. Um it's I know it's set in New York City, but I don't know if it's filmed in New York City. I'm not 100% on that. Um, so I don't know if there's like stock footage or how they do it, but it looks like New York City. I've never been there, but from somebody who's never been there, it's like, I believe it. That could be New York City as far as I can tell. I don't know. You could have fooled me. Now let's talk about some of the highlights. Um, before I get into my personal experience with the show. Highlights. Um, there is a storyline involving Ted meeting a girl named Victoria, who I will um, repeat to the day I die. He should have married Victoria um, because he's stupid that he didn't. Um, he literally had no excuse not to. He could have went to Germany. He didn't have to break up with her. They didn't have to do the long distance thing, and he definitely didn't have to cheat on her. Which again, as soon as he cheated on her, and it wasn't like you know with Ross where it was like they were on a break, but also they just broke up 5 minutes ago, so scummy but forgivable. No, he cheats on her straight up, not forgivable. He's just like, hey, my girlfriend's in Germany, want to fuck? He doesn't actually say that because it's a sitcom, it's on television. But basically, that's what he does. He's like, oh no, I broke up with her, fingers crossed behind my back. You get some really great holiday themed episodes. I would go so far as to say some of my favorite holiday episodes of any sitcom ever are on this show, especially the one with what is it? I can't remember the word they use, but there's a term they use in the episode where there's a guy who like misses everything that's happening, and it's the guy from Lost. It's pretty hilarious. Again, scummy because Ted is literally dating a married woman when he knows she's married and she knows that he knows, but he's still doing it anyways. And she's not in the clear because she's like married, and he's not in the clear because she's married. But also, he does break up their marriage and then doesn't marry her. Uh, Breaks up her marriage to date her, fucks her, and then dumps her. And it's like, yeah, it's shit like that that makes me hate Ted Mosby. He's kind of a scumbag, and he does that more than once. And when I say more, that, I mean he, you know, gets a girl's hopes up and squashes her dreams more than once. He cheats more than once. He goes after somebody who's not available more than once. He's not a good guy. I really love the club scene where Barney is pretending to be Ted Mosby architect using his title to get, you know, all the people in town to just be impressed that he's an architect because he's like, dude, it's a cool job. You got a cool job. Like that impresses people. And Ted's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna sit at the bar and mope. I'm single. Blah blah blah. Poor me, because Ted's kind of a crybaby. The other reason I don't like the Ted Mosby character that much. I liked him for the first like half of the first episode, and then he lost me immediately the second episode, and I was like, he's just a horn dog. He does not care about Robin at all. He just wants to get in her pants. He even specifically says that. He's like, so let's not date. Can we just fuck? He literally says that. Again, he doesn't use the F word, but he's like, well, friends with benefits? Does that work for you? Like, he's literally just trying to fuck her. So, no, it's not the greatest love story ever told. In fact, it's one of the worst love stories ever told. Especially when you get to the part where he actually meets the mom and we get two more seasons with the mom, and it's like, when the fuck are y'all gonna get married? Jesus Christ. The whole premise of the show is, oh my god, I gotta get married right now. Poor me. Stupid fucking incel. And then when he meets the love of his life, he's like, nah, let's not get married. Even though he's literally been proposed and engaged and left at the altar more than once in this show. So he's so desperate to get married, but when he meets the actual woman he marries, he's like, nah, let's take it slow. And it's like, is that character development, lazy writing, or is it, oops, we got two more seasons of this. We've already introduced the mother. What do we do? But unfortunately, he does not get a happy ending because the mother, spoilers, dies. And he, again, goes after Robin after her marriage failed. Again, being a scumbag, he's like, oh, my wife died and your marriage failed. Can we hook up? It's like, no, dude, fucking mourn. Or let her mourn. Or just like live your fucking. I don't know. I hate Ted Mosby. He's, now that I think about it, he's actually worse than Ross. Because when Ross cheated, it was kind of not really cheating. But when Ted does it, it's intentional. It's like, no, I'm just all about the pussy. I don't give a fuck about anybody's feelings. And he even breaks up with a girl on her fucking birthday after breaking up with her on her birthday, getting back, getting, sweeping her off her feet, getting her hopes up again, and breaking up with her again on her birthday. Now, granted, she fucks him up, good for her. But again, it was like, dude, you're kind of a douche. Now, most of the comedy, the good comedy, I will say, because most of the comedy is Ted being a doofus, and you're just like, oh, you. But the good comedy comes from um, Marshall. He's kind of a doofus, but in a different way. Just oblivious to how the world works. He's like a country dude in the city. He's like, oh, hold doors open for people, tip the taxi driver, smile at the guy at the bank with a gun, etc. He's that clueless. Um, Marshall has some really funny moments, and again, I apologize, I forgot the actor's name. But he's famous. He went on to do a ton of fucking comedies, so you know him. You know him when you see him. You recognize him. But again, I can't remember anybody's name right now. I'll never forget Allison Hannigan because I was in love with her back all the way back in Buffy. So I know her name. It's engraved in my heart. So, but anyways, you get a lot of guest appearances, famous celebrity guest appearances, which again, a lot of them are walk-on, walk-off parts, just like Friends. But occasionally, you get a good repeat. You get a good, story arc with some of the guests. Britney Spears has an amazing uh, story arc in this show. I love it because she's like bonkers crazy, and I'm here for that because I love Britney Spears and I just want to see her in anything she's going to be in. You learn a lot about the characters. They're kind of nerdy, but they're like self-aware that they're nerdy and they're embarrassed that they're nerdy. So they're quick to call other people who are nerds who are nerdier than them, but also they're okay with being nerdy when it's just them and no one's looking. Which I hate when sitcoms do that because it's like, yeah, I'm a nerd, but shh, I don't want anyone to know. Like, fuck you, just be who you are. Literally, fuck you. The show is very transphobic in the beginning and very homophobic in some of the early seasons. They do sort of rectify the homophobia later. So kudos for them for trying, A for effort, but they never fix the transphobia. They just sort of sweep it under the rug. So the show gets a dinged for that. And I'm not going to excuse it for being 2006 because we knew better in 2006. It was, in 1996, I'll excuse it and say we didn't know better. But by 2006, we fucking did. We knew better. God damn it. I hate it when people say, "Oh, it's just 2006." That was just the time. Yeah, it's 2024. People are like, "Oh, it was just 2019. That was just the time." No, you can't just excuse it because it's in the past. Sometimes you have to say no. At a certain point, you knew better. They knew better than to be transphobic, but they were anyways. So the show gets dinged for that. It's also very misogynistic, not just Barney, but also Ted and also Marshall and also all the guys on the show. There's even a whole episode about how Marshall is pretending to be a misogynist because he's Jane Goodall studying the apes, so he has to act like the apes. And his wife's like, "No, you're just being a douche, and you're acting like a douche, and stop being a douche." And he's like, "No, I'm Jane Goodall. I'm only pretending to be a douche to fit in with the other douches." And she's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what douches do." So she does call him out for that. I love the club episodes. Any episode where they're in a club, those are all great episodes. Every one of them. The techno episode where Marshall has a toothache is fucking fantastic. I love it. Great episode. I do like that Barney has a homosexual brother who, because he's a stepbrother, I guess, he's African American. So they do a good job playing with your expectations of, is the show going to be racist? And it straddles the line, but in a way that makes you go, all right, they're evolving. I'll give them credit for that. And it does straddle the line with its homophobia until they introduce the gay character, and then they're like, oops, my bad, we're sorry, can you forgive us? And then they kind of do overcompensate in some of the later seasons, which I will say they do definitely overcompensate because it was not a character trait of the characters, but it's kind of like you can chalk it up to them evolving as characters, saying, "Oh, I guess we've learned that we need to be better than this, so I'll allow it. I'll allow it." I just wish that Ted Mosby had evolved as a character because he fucking never does. He rides the high horse the whole time when it's like, dude, you're the guy in the sewers covered in shit. You have no right to be up on your high horse. But whatever. Anyways, I do love How I Met Your Mother. This video is getting a little rambly. So let's get into how I discovered it. Now, remember when I said Friends ended in 2004? We had 2 seasons of Joey, which we should all do everything in our power to forget those 2 seasons of Joey. Thank you very much. And then starting in 2006, we got How I Met Your Mother. So if you were needing your Friends fix and you were having withdrawals, this show gave you the fix. You were no longer having withdrawals. However, I didn't jump in right away. The very first episode I saw was like season 4, maybe season 5. The episode where Ted Mosby buys a house and he's showing his rundown house to his friends who are like, dude, don't buy this house. And he's like, actually, I already did. And they're like, no, Ted, you doofus. And I was like, all right, this is definitely a Friends knockoff. But I was curious enough to watch more. So I went back to season 1, started at the beginning. And from that point on, once I caught up, I watched every episode week to week as they came out. And back then, we still had IMDb chat. So I was still going on the chat forums on IMDb with other people, other fans of the show, theorizing who could be the mother because they were dropping hints every episode, every season. And I was the one who was like, no, they're going to retcon it. It's Victoria, even though I know it's not Victoria. God damn it. It should have been Victoria. God damn it. But anyways, spoilers, it's not Victoria. I did get my mom into How I Met Your Mother, which I'm glad I did, because it became a show that we could watch together every, I don't know, was it Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day it came out. New episodes came out, so we could watch it together, and it was a good time. We'd pop popcorn and have some, soda and a bowl of snacks, just like we did when we watched Heroes back when it was still good. Spoilers, that show didn't stay good for very long. But anyways, Um, it has its ups and downs. Some seasons are better than others. If I was gonna rank the series as a whole, season 1 and season 3 are my favorite seasons. But every other season is still quality. On a scale of 5 stars, I would say season 1 is a 5-star season. Season 3 is a 5-star season, and the rest of them are like 3.5, 4 stars. So still pretty good. None of them dip below 3.5 stars. None of them are 3-star seasons. There's no 2-star seasons. The whole show is still good, all the way up to the very end. The finale is disappointing. I will say that. Um, the big reveal was disappointing. And I know I exaggerated. The mother was not in the last two seasons. She was only in the last like few episodes, I guess. But it felt like she was, there was this big build up and they just took too long to get to the goddamn point. When the whole point of the show was he just was desperate to get married. So it was kind of like, all right, he found her. Can we get to the wedding? And it's like 5 years later, and it's like, and she's even calling him out, like, are we ever gonna get married? And he's like, I don't know if I believe in marriage, blah blah blah. I was like, dude, that's like your whole person. That's literally your entire personality is you're desperate to get married. What the fuck are you doing? I didn't like that. You could chalk it up to, yeah, he's been burned a few times, but there was no other character development from the characters, so why would that qualify as character development? To me, it doesn't. Now, I did, because of nostalgia, because I loved the show so much, I did make the mistake of watching How I Met Your Father, which I'm going to save you the trouble. Don't. Don't even waste your time. Stay away from that show. It's just going to make you miss this show, and it's going to make you angry that streaming has destroyed television sitcoms, because it fucking has. But I'm not going to harp on that too much. As a whole, I would rate the series as a whole 4 stars as a whole. It averages out. It's a goddamn good show. It's one of my probably top 10 sitcoms of all time. Probably top 5, maybe, sitcoms of all time. Although, definitely top 10. It might not be top 5, but it's definitely top 10. But it could be top 5, but I haven't done that list yet. But it's a damn good show. I love it a lot. So I have to ask the question. I have to ask 3 questions. One, did you watch How I Met Your Mother? And if you did, what did you think of it? Question number 2, if you disagree with me, which why would you, that he shouldn't have ended up with Victoria, because he should have. Who do you think he should have ended up with if it wasn't the mother or Robin? And question number 3, do you agree with me or disagree with me? Did Ted Mosby ever have any actual character development, or did he devolve as a character and get worse as the show progressed? Because I think he got worse as a character as the show progressed. So let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on How I Met Your Mother. And if you've never seen the show, are you interested in it? Do you want to watch it? Check it out if you haven't. You might like it, but forewarned, it, it's a little problematic at times. But every fucking sitcom is. So what are you gonna